about what is death? What does it mean to die?
That's the termination of your relationship with your particular physical body that you have at this present time. When you are retracted from this reality, okay, you go back up toward the origin of reality. You can be provided with a substitute body, another kind of terminal body that allows you to keep on existing.
With the same memories?
This is what religions... excuse me?
With a modicum of your memories before, or a complete eraser?
You can have... These memories can be retrieved. Nothing goes out of existence in the conspansive manifold. Your memories can always be pulled back out, if that's... But there's no reason to do that, usually. Okay? Why cling to memories of a world in which you are no longer instantiated? So there are certain automatic psychological things that happen on death, at the moment of death. And also you mentioned what happens after death. That's not quite appropriate, of course, because that's a temporal preposition. And when you're extracted from the terminal domain, you're no longer time-like. Now you're basically metatemporal.
So this is a man with 200 IQ. This is basically the smartest man in the world, and he shares with us today what he thinks happens after we die. This is making headlines everywhere right now. What happens after we die? This man is Chris Langan. He is 72. He is a North Frencher who has a very high IQ. And he is basically a genius. And he has 30 to 50 points higher than Albert Einstein. Just to tell you that this man is very smart. Langan has developed an hypothesis called the Cognitive-Theoretic Model of the Universe, CTMU. And it explains the connection between mind and reality. Basically, he believes that when we die, we transition from one form of being to another within the computational structure of reality, meaning that the consciousness or soul moves to another dimension or plane of existence we cannot access while we are alive. It is not clear yet what that new dimension looks like or what happens to the soul once it arrives there, but Langan believes that traditional views of heaven and hell are too simplistic, whereas his theory of the cognitive-theoretic model of the universe, this theory, posits a transition to entirely new state of being. So let's hear exactly what he has to say and how he did come up with this theory.
So, everything changes. However, you exist that way right now. Arguably, all of your lifetimes, if you were to be reincarnated again and again and again, all of those reincarnations are meta-simultaneous. There is a sense in which they all occur at once in the non-terminal.
So when people talk about heaven, which I know you have your own views, a specific differentiated view I haven't heard before as to what heaven is, and even hell. When people talk about heaven, usually what they mean is something like reinstantiation of this body with probably a better hairline than I have, and
you got a great younger hairline.
Oh man,
better than mine is.
You should see Bernardo Kastrup, which I should put you in touch with. Have you heard of Bernardo Kastrup?
I've heard of Bernardo. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think he was on email distribution. I think it was one of Jack Sarfati's email distributions.
So who's that? Jack who?
Jack Sarfati?
Yeah.
Jack Sarfati is one of the hippies who saved physics.
Uh-huh.
You ever read that book?
To UFOs? Does he study UFOs?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I think he's working on, right now, he's working on metamaterials that will allow us to build spacecraft that emulate Tic Tacs. What are those Tic Tacs that
We're going to talk about that, man.
I mean, yeah, he's a gonzo physicist, right? But he's been around since the 1960s, and there are a bunch of other guys, like Sarag and Nick Herbert and Fred Allen Wolf and other people like this. There's a guy named David Kaiser, I think he's at MIT. He wrote a book called How the Hippies Saved Physics. And these were the guys, non-locality and all the quantum woo you hear about sometimes came from these guys. But in reality, they had a lot of very productive thoughts. And in a way, the world we're living in now is an outgrowth of some of what they were thinking and doing in those days. Some of these guys are still around. I mean, not just John Safety, but you've also got other guys like, I know Nick Herbert is still there, and I know that Wolf is still there, Sirag is still there. These guys are on email distributions that Jack sometimes puts me on one of his distributions. And so,
I want to talk to Jack at some point. I heard that I should talk to Jack. What I've been exploring recently is the topic of UFOs, because, like this podcast is about theoretical physics, consciousness, free will, and God. And it seems like UFOs, from our observations of them, break the laws of physics as we know. So a simple one is conservation of momentum. How can you move back and forth we have to assume a certain mass is associated with the craft?
Well, yes, and of course mass amounts to inertia, and that's a violation of inertia. You can't just suddenly turn like a baton like that.
Right, so that's what I've been exploring.
Unless you're dealing with a projection.
Right. And
right?
That's also called spoofing, I believe. Have you heard that term?
Yeah, I have heard the term spoofing, but you need a better theater of reality in order to explain what this kind of projection could be.
Okay, while we're here, man, let's talk about this. What are your thoughts on UFOs in general, as well as the recent disclosure movements? Is there anything about UFOs that you find convincing that they are, in fact, maybe us from the future, maybe associated with God or demons or angels, or just an advanced civilization visiting us in the same way that we house people at zoos? I mean, animals at zoos.
They could be any or all of those things. There could be different kinds some kinds that come from the future, some kinds that come from another planet elsewhere in the universe, right? But they definitely, you've got too much reportage on them. There are too many people who are coming up with heartfelt stories about them. They can't possibly all be fake. Right? People aren't liars. If someone's going to risk his reputation and be called a nut by coming out and saying, I saw a UFO, you have to take that person a little bit seriously. Sure, there are scammers out there and people who are going to lie about it, but I don't think we could have this much reportage without actually having something to it. Right? So I think a lot of people are telling the truth about UFOs. That means they have to be explained, and there are a number of possible explanations.
That's an interesting theory. What I think is that you should question everything that you know. You should question everything that you are taught in school, that society tells you to believe. Make your own opinion about things. And I think going about everything that way is the fastest way to find the truth, to find what you should believe in, what is true, and what is false. Chris Langan is an American who is very, very smart. Death is not the end, he says. Death is not the cessation of existence. You can be provided with a substitute body, another kind of terminal body that allows you to keep on existing after we die. According to Langan, once you transition to this new plane of existence, you might not even remember who you were before, he says. You can have the memories, but your memories can also pull back out. But there's no reason to do that usually. This is what he said in the interview. You are basically meditating, seeing that everything can change. However, you exist that way right now. Arguably, of all of your lifetimes, if you were to be reincarnated again and again and again, all of those reincarnations are meta-simultaneous. Langan and his theory is called again Cognitive-Theoretic Model of the Universe, CTMU. And his theory, it is an assumption that reality is trans-temporal, meaning it doesn't depend on time. Reality has many different planes of existence, many different planes of consciousness, where your soul or consciousness can move to beyond the physical and the mental self. I truly believe that in the universe there are things that we cannot explain, and there are things that we can explain, but not everything. And there are some higher power and things that we don't see that goes beyond our senses. And this is especially what could be metaphysical, what could be trans-temporal, what could be the reign of the soul and our consciousness that goes beyond what we know and what we can experience in this life. I truly believe that this dimension is pan-consciousness, and it truly emerges from within the creator or simulator, this God, this universe, almighty power, higher power that we know exist above ourselves. Let's see what people are saying in the comment section. I worked as a nurse in palliative care. No substance abuse. On 3 occasions, I believe I have seen what is ahead. There were 2 younger men passed over, an elderly man, no relative present in the room. There was an amazing feeling. The room was filled with a warm light. There was just the feeling of people present. Again, in a form of light rays, but I saw faces that appeared briefly. Some of those faces I saw later in family picture after the parent had passed. All I know, I wanted to go towards this feeling of warmth. There was no physical beings, just faces. Well, this is probably what happens when you die. Before death, you probably just see what is most important to you, what you have cherished in the past, how you love, and the people that you love and the people that are close to you. This is probably what you see when your consciousness, when your soul leaves your body. You see bright light, you see people faces, you see what is the most important to you, and you are basically reunited with your loved one. This is probably the closest close call, close death experience that you can have. It's probably what it looks like. Many people have reported this in the past, and I truly believe it is true. Let me know what you think about all of this. Is it right to think that death is not the end? Is it right to think that our soul, our consciousness loses our body and go to another plane of existence that we cannot access yet? That's a very interesting theory. Let me know what you think in the comment section below. That would be very interesting to me to hear what you have to say about this. Thanks for watching and staying with me to the end up. I really appreciate you being there with me today. Click right there to watch the next video, and I will see you there. Bye bye for now.